This is RFD Today, a daily look at the key topics impacting rural Illinois. If you live in Illinois, we examine the issues impacting you, your income, and your community. Here's your host for today's program, DeLaw Schonke.
Hey, good Thursday to you, Illinois. Thanks for joining us for this adventure in broadcasting on the 25th of April, 8 months to Christmas. One of the big news items today is that former Vice President Joe Biden announced he's running for president in 2020. The former Vice President and my mother share a birthday. Senator's former VP Biden, shortly after the 2020 election, will be 78 years old. 78. We have people that retire from this place much younger than that. You know, we just had a guy a couple of weeks ago. So excited to be on his own schedule and do his own thing and that sort of thing. And Biden's going to run for president. Already 76 years old. I hope to have that kind of energy. I hope to reach that point, first of all, and then hope to have that kind of energy when that time rolls around. Anyway, on the program today, Dale Durkholz at AgriVisor, Mike Doherty at Illinois Farm Bureau, talking about some economic issues. We'll get into that. And if that's not good enough, Harry Cooney, Growmark Energy Risk Management, and Dan Paneer, Propane Operations Manager at Growmark, we'll talk about the average fuel price in Illinois is almost to $3 a gallon. And then Mark Albertson at Illinois Soybean Association with the Checkoff Program and some opportunities with tuna to move more soybeans and sending Illinois beans to ADM and then to San Diego. All to come on a Thursday RFD Today.
It's a bully, but we aren't afraid of a fight. It's elusive, but our focus never fades. It's deadly, but we were born to defeat cancer. You may not have heard of us, but our work has helped millions impacted by cancer. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We are leaders in advancing breakthroughs in immunotherapy, genomics, and personalized medicine. This research saves lives. After 65 years of fighting blood cancers, we've arrived at a game-changing belief. The cures for cancer are in our blood. The drugs and treatments we've developed for blood cancers have helped people affected by many different types of cancers. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Beating cancer is in our blood. Learn more at LLS.org.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Daniel Grant connects rural routes for you. With more than 2 decades of reporting under his belt, Dan is the go-to source for farmers when it comes to commodities. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a grain and livestock farm near Roseville in Warren County. What I love about my job is working with people, traveling across Illinois, and visiting farms along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
If you're in the mood for some sprucing up, you're in luck. From big to small or farm to front yard, your Illinois Farm Bureau member discount from John Deere is ready and waiting to help. It's easy to think green when it's the Rewards Loyalty Program with savings on equipment, special parts, and home and workshop products. Whether your tasks involve mowing, planting, or cleaning, you'll be set for whatever your work requires. All you need to do is sign up, have your membership number handy, and go to johndeere.com/Farm Bureau.
Welcome back to RFD Today on a Thursday. I'm DeLaw Schonke. Boy, I tell you, the guests we have today, the information to be shared. Dale Durkholz looking around like, what you talking about? Dale Durkholz, Senior Analyst at AgriVisor. Mike Doherty, Senior Economist, Illinois Farm Bureau. Before we get into the stuff that you came to talk about, I want to ask you both about this, and this could be one of these on the other hand, Mike, that all economists do. U.S. dollar is at its highest point in, 23 months, almost 2 years. It's been that strong. So, Mike, in some reasons, I assume that's a good thing, right?
What, for agriculture?
Well, that would be on the other hand I was going to get to. Is there any?
I've never been a big fan of the strong dollar.
Oh, really?
Idea. No, and people say, well, we should have a strong dollar. I guess it sounds good, but no, it's not good because it means your exports become less competitive on the world markets.
Okay, that's what I was
generally, economically, a strong dollar is good in the sense that it says you got a strong, viable economy going here. And I'm speaking broad-based.
Yeah.
You got a strong economy going here versus the rest of the world. You got an interest for money to come into the country, and anytime money flows into a country, there's lots of reasons to be happy about that. But, as you said, on the other hand, as Mike said, when you get into the world of exports, it's got some negative drags to it.
Even 850 soybeans with a strong dollar can be seen as more expensive, comparatively speaking, I suppose. Now,
the one thing I would like to say, and a lot of people really don't readily understand, and, when you get into a lot of media, they refer to the strength or the weakness of the dollar. That isn't where you want to focus your attention. You want to focus your attention not on the dollar, because the dollar aggregates and indices we normally see and talk about, they're made up roughly of about 60% European currencies. So there's kind of a distortion there that doesn't mean much. You need today to look at things like, what is the Brazilian real doing? Mm-hmm. What is the Argentine peso doing? What is the Russian ruble doing? And the fourth one I would mention that's important really is, what is the Chinese yuan or the renminbi doing? So I think you need to look at those specific currencies to really talk about agriculture and exports and things of that nature.
There's an index for those, right? The competing currencies against.
Well, yeah, there are. I don't look at those as much. I just look at the individual disc crosses back against the dollar itself, like the real to the dollar, or the peso to the dollar.
Sure. If a strong dollar represents a strong economy or something worth investing, then we're also $20 bajillion in debt. How do those two? How can you be in such a deficit and have a strong economy?
Because the economy and government deficits are two different things.
It's also the carrying capacity of the U.S. economy to carry debt, too. Right. There's a lot of faith in that's going back to the strong dollar, a lot of faith in the U.S. economy. If the U.S. economy were not be a secure place, how bad would the world have to be for it to not be a secure place?
Right.
So when it's the lead, one of the two lead economies in the world.
As referenced or related to, let's say, the Argentine peso.
For crying out loud.
There you go.
And I saw this morning. This is the forward curve on the peso. Right now we're at about 45. You go out into March of 2020, the forward futures on the peso is at 67.
Wow.
67 pesos to the dollar compared to today, 40 pesos to the dollar, or 45 pesos to the dollar.
So that's 60% weaker.
So I ask you,
oh my God,
what's the faith in the Argentine economy?
None.
Nil.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wow.
That kind of drives home the point Mike was talking about. The faith in our economy.
It's funny, too, that, when the EU, remember when Greece was going to bring down the entire European Union economically? And I remember thinking, well, why does, it's just one country amongst 20-some. I mean, that would be like putting all of the U.S. hopes on Louisiana.
Right. That was overblown.
Nothing against Louisiana, but I was like, what? How does that happen?
That was overblown the whole time.
Oh, yeah?
That was never going to be much of anything. That just, was the buzz at the moment.
Gotcha. All right. Well, now, none of that was why you guys came in here today, but I did want to talk about the dollar because I saw it had been making the news recently in its strength. So, you guys have been, Dale, you were in Kansas City recently. It was CFTC.
Yeah, I was in Kansas City 2 weeks ago at a CFTC conference, and then Mike and I, the last couple of days, were in Chicago at a USDA data users meeting.
Well, you guys are consuming that data, right? You guys are some of the users.
Yeah, my brain's about to explode.
But we were both talking about it we took Amtrak up. We were going to go the
we don't want to talk about going up.
Lower speed highway transportation, and
we sat at Joliet for 2 hours waiting on a bridge inspector.
Beautiful view of Joliet.
We looked at the quarry beside the tracks.
But we were talking about how it was, it was relaxing for us to be at this meeting. Though afterwards we feel exhausted, but at the time, it's just really relaxing. And then I was thinking, not many other people would probably feel that way over 8 hours of nothing but graphs and lines and charts. And
oh yeah, you guys know how to party like no other. But waiting in Joe. Did you know you were going to have to wait for 2 hours, or did you?
No, not on the way up.
Oh boy,
some truck had hit a railroad bridge or a car or something, and so they had to inspect it before they let the train go over. The way back, they were on time. It takes about 2.5 hours, Amtrak, Chicago to Bloomington.
Yeah. But with Wi-Fi, does it make sense to actually arrive faster when you've got a laptop and you're doing everything on that laptop on the train that you would be doing if you were off the train?
How about that? So your productivity
barely drops at all.
Wow, yeah. Well, that's not bad. Okay, we have a minute before we have to go to break, but just a take-home or a topic over these recent days.
The one take-home I would say, and a lot of people would be interested in listening to, nobody has any certainty on what the future looks like going forward regarding African swine flu in China. Yeah. Tons of uncertainty, and nobody has a really good handle on any of that at this point, nor a good feel, and a lot of it has to do with the confusion about the numbers of what is occurring and what has taken place. So many different opinions.
The biggest one is going to be the price impact in China, because that could have political implications.
Wow. All right, we have a break coming up here. We'll pick that up and have more discussion. Dale Dirkholz and Mike Doherty on a Thursday RFD today.
RFD Radio Network's DeLoss Yankee connects rural routes for you. DeLoss delivers essential farm and food-related news to our listeners. His witty voice has been heard on the air for more than 2 decades. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
Growing up on a farm prepared me for my career. I try to know a little about a lot of things and let the people I interview be the experts. I've always wanted to be on the radio. I'm just happy to do what I enjoy.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
As you prepare for planting season, remember your neighbors. Whether you're an applicator, grower, or beekeeper, use FieldWatch to register your farm and monitor for sensitive sites around you. FieldWatch is a free, easy-to-use online mapping tool. Consulting FieldWatch is now a requirement for the over-the-top use dicamba products. Communicating with your neighbors will help you protect your farm and the environment. Don't wait. Go online to fieldwatch.com. Growing agriculture. We grow best together.
Spring is here and things are buzzing. Farmers and pollinators are working together to help feed us. In fact, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat exists because of bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and other insects. Pollinators are important to our food system and the ecosystem overall. That's why farmers and those in the agricultural industry are working together to protect pollinators through education, research, and conservation efforts. Visit ilagformonarchs.org to join the buzz. That's ilagformonarchs.org.
I'm Trooper Teal with Illinois State Police. As we enter spring planting season in Illinois, it is imperative to eliminate distractions in your vehicle and pay attention to the farm equipment on the roadway. At 55 miles per hour, it takes only 5 seconds to close the gap the length of a football field between you and a tractor moving 5 miles per hour. Distracted Driving Awareness Month in April is a united effort to recognize and eliminate preventable deaths from distracted driving. Join us to help save lives.
A message from the Illinois Farm Bureau and the Illinois State Police.
I was visiting my 75-year-old aunt the other day when her phone rang.
Hello? It's you again.
She seemed nervous.
Well, I don't think I need any more life insurance.
The caller was doing a great job keeping my aunt on the line.
Okay, so you need my credit card number?
My aunt went to get her purse, so I decided that I would ask a few questions. Well, as soon as I introduced myself, the caller hung up.
McGruff, the crime dog here. Recognizing the signs of fraud can be difficult for older people. Often they're very trusting and consider it impolite to hang up. The National Crime Prevention Council wants to educate seniors so that these scams can be reported to local law enforcement agencies.
Financial fraud can include identity theft, fake check and wire transfer scams, investment and credit card fraud, and online charitable solicitations. Unfortunately, only 1 in 5 of these crimes are reported. To learn more, go to ncpc.org/seniors. That's ncpc.org/seniors. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Department of Justice.
All right, welcome back. RFD today on a Thursday. I'm DeLoss Yankee. To my left, Mike Doherty, senior economist, Illinois Farm Bureau. To his left, Dale Dirkholz, senior analyst at AgriVisor. You're talking about African swine fever in China, and who knows how many is infected and all that. Who knows how much of a wipeout that is. And so how would you know how much feed they need? And hopefully some of that can come, soy meal from the United States, but how would anybody know?
Then there's the residual aspect of that came up as well in just some side discussions at the meeting. You think about it, okay, they're potentially short of pork, so they're going to import pork and poultry and beef, or could, from other countries around the world. Well, then you get into the repercussions. How much protein meal, like soybean meal, is it going to take to feed those animals in other countries around the world? And then you back it down another step, and you start asking the question, do we have enough processing capacity to process soybeans, sunflowers, canola into the various products, meals, and oils to feed the livestock elsewhere in the world? Because we've always imported whole bean into China. Mm-hmm. And China has this huge processing capacity for whole bean. Does the rest of the world have enough capacity to feed more animals to provide the product into China? I mean, there's just a lot of repercussions potentially all the way down the chain.
You started messing with people's food, too. I mean, pork is such a huge... it's the number one meat of choice in China. So
and the one thing politically that you don't want to make the populace angry.
Right.
There's 1.3 billion of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a big
but they are shifting. They are shifting rapidly to chicken and to beef in China, and so you're seeing the substitution effect going on in the feed. And then, of course, chickens don't eat the same thing that hogs eat. I remember one of my early on in my days as a graduate student at Ag-Econ, a professor at NC State told me, Mike, a chicken is a corn conversion machine.
Mm-hmm.
So no. It was said somewhere in the last 2 days and said properly. A chicken is a two-legged soybean.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I heard up there in Chicago, and that took me by surprise because I was told.
Oh, that's an old adage from a long time ago.
I'm not a poultry guy, so I don't know.
Well, I grew
up with it.
Of all the animals, they get fed, from a protein standpoint, they get fed the hottest ration.
Okay.
Because chickens
they can
and
eat
poultry,
high protein.
They can eat a lot of high protein, even compared to hogs.
Watch them on insects, they'll go crazy.
Even compared to hogs, they can.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They respond physically and gain weight with high protein diets, so they're known as a two-legged soybean.
So it depends on the price ratio then between starches and which way you go.
Was there much tariff talk where you guys have been recently?
There wasn't really a whole lot of talk about the tariff. Frankly, there wasn't a huge amount of discussion anywhere in the last couple of days about the Chinese-U.S. trade talks that came up, but, kind of sort of I'd say as an afterthought, and everybody's got their own opinion about it, it seems like.
Other than because of the swine fever that the Chinese will probably whatever they're going to be doing, they're going to be doing it despite the tariffs. They're gonna, is because of the situation they're in.
Wow. Because then there's the ractopamine issue, and
they have major tariffs against U.S. pork. What's the tariffs total on that?
Somewhere along the way, somebody said to me, they thought that roughly about half the U.S. pork output could be ractopamine free within about 60 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's an issue, but one that, you know, if you do put together an agreement with China, and let's say pork is a part of it, you watch, a lot of people will shift gears quickly in the pork producing industry here to be able to feed that potential demand. So, I mean, you can quickly take that out of the pipeline, out of the mix, you know, 60 days or whatever it was, really being relatively quick in a long-term agreement like that.
All right, we're already down to 2 minutes left. So give me another topic that you guys.
Okay. So we're done with swine fever. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying that I thought it was very interesting, the swine fever story, that we depopulated the Dominican Republic, and because they got swine fever in there, and then or was it foot and mouth? It
was swine fever, and took them. They totally depopulated the hogs. Took them 7 years. Spain and Portugal got swine flu.
Mm-hmm.
Took them 30 years to get rid of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
there's a lot.
You got a lot of backyard pigs, or just a lot of
they
wild.
Have wild boars running around, which they prize, and so
there is a lot of concern about that getting here.
So otherwise, heard some good news on got some good feedback from USDA about the Ag Census. Farm Bureau is going to be meeting. We're going to be meeting in our division next Tuesday on this. We can put in special requests. We found out about that kind of channel for special requests for some slicing and dicing of the data for Illinois that we didn't get in the general release.
Oh.
And so I'm very excited about that, about what kind of follow-up analysis we can get out of USDA, basically over consolidation and some other things we're keeping an eye on here.
Well, Illinois was the number one participating state.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
For policy, for things they write in D.C., for other different issues.
And I will
it's important
say,
information.
Farm Bureau deserves some credit on that, but of course the lion's share of the credit goes to our farmers for being outstanding in the field and taking the time to fill out those survey forms.
All right, we're already out of time. Next two are here. So this was the appetizer, if you will, and we have Mike Doherty at Illinois Farm Bureau, Dale Dirkholz at Agrivisor. Coming up next, we'll talk fuels and energies with Harry Cooney and Dan
What kind of appetizer
Zanier.
am I? Am I burnt ends at Jack Stacks?
Well, to me, that's a main course. I don't know. That's not an appetizer. Plenty to come still on RFD today.
More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
What's the excitement about buying a brand new car when you pay full price for it? County Farm Bureau members have a reason to be excited. A Farm Bureau membership gives you 2 car purchase discounts. When members buy a new Ford vehicle, they receive $500 off their purchase. And with a purchase of a qualifying Lincoln vehicle, they receive $750 off. Everyone loves a good deal, and the money saved is worth the price of our annual membership. This is just one of our 300,000 plus discounts that are always changing to fit our members' needs. Not a Farm Bureau member? Visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
Attention corn farmers. Your corn checkoff dollars are working with the U.S. Meat Export Federation to grow red meat export volumes. Because when we're exporting beef, we're also exporting corn. The beef industry consumes 28% of all corn fed to livestock, plus additional corn in the form of DDGs, a co-product of ethanol production. Now that's what we call working an angle. Your checkoff is working corn from all angles. Because of the Illinois Corn Marketing Board, your profitability is our bottom line. A message from the Illinois Corn Checkoff.
Does the warmer weather have you itching for a weekend getaway? Take your Illinois Farm Bureau membership savings with you.
Farm Bureau members can save up to 20% at choice hotels, including favorites like Comfort Suites, Sleep Inn, Quality Inn and Suites, with even more to choose from.
Call 800-258-2847 or visit the Choice Hotels website to search all the hotels at once and to make advance reservations.
Contact your local County Farm Bureau for your discount code number.
It's where your home is built, your landscape is planted, and your children play. Land is all around us, so Illinois farmers have dedicated years to learning how to best care for it. Today, we're bridging modern knowledge with resources from Mother Nature to promote natural soil activity and choosing crops that enhance soil health. To learn more about conservation efforts, visit ilfarmersconserve.com. Preserving our water, protecting our land, providing our food.
This message brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau.
All ag.
All Illinois.
All now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
Farm, family, food. Those three words best describe Illinois Farm Bureau. Farm. For 100 years, Farm Bureau in Illinois has represented and served the men and women who make Illinois one of the top food-producing states. Family. At the heart of rural Illinois are traditional farm families who work together through Illinois Farm Bureau. And food. Farm Bureau families are proud to grow the healthy food they provide their families and yours. Farm, family, food. The heart of Farm Bureau in Illinois.
All right, welcome back to RFD Today on a Thursday. I'm DeLoss Yonke. We said that was the first course, Mike Doherty and Dale Durkholz, and now it's either the second course, you could call it the main course. Harry Cooney, Growmark Energy Risk Management. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Doing great. Yes, sir.
Dan Paneer, Manager of Propane Operations at Growmark. How's it going?
Pretty good. Good morning.
I want to start the same question I asked those two guys. We'll talk about it with you as well. Strength of the U.S. dollar, it's almost as strong as it's been in 2 years.
Yeah, dollar strengthening. Yeah.
What does that necessarily mean for you, if anything?
Well, it doesn't mean anything directly, but over time, I mean, it could help depress some of our energy prices. Now, as you look at the ag commodities, and we know what the grains have been doing, and on the weaker side, obviously. And then you look at our energy markets, and they're just opposite. Mm-hmm. They've been going up. Now, Dan, I shouldn't speak for your propane over here. Propane's been a little weaker. But on the liquid fuel side, we have markets that are just about as overbought on the energy side as the grain markets are oversold.
Wow.
So the dollar hasn't really had a big impact. Normally, when you think of the dollar going up, you would normally think of commodities in general, including energies, going down. Well, so far at least, the liquid fuel market has not been selling off yet. So we'll have to watch and see in the coming couple of weeks, because here's why I say it. Now, this is kind of interesting stuff. There's a seasonal price study that would suggest that liquid fuel prices go up from about, sometimes usually it starts sometime between Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day. And we've talked about that over here before. And but that seasonal tends to peak out by about the last week in April. So if you look at where we're at now, we're right in that window when it normally tends to peak out. Now, what does the seasonal do for the rest of the year? Well, it sets back into May, and sometimes it sets back into June. And then at times, though, the liquid fuel market goes a little higher into fall, like diesel fuel, for example. And it's just the history, just the historical. The seasonal is just showing your history of the last 3 or 5 years. But it tends to peak out in here pretty soon. So you can't call this a top in the market, but you can definitely say that conditions are favorable for some type of a peak in the energy market.
Why does it peak before the start of the summer driving season?
Well, you build up on the anticipation. It's kind of like buy the rumor and sell the fact. It's kind of like buy gas when they're not driving on the anticipation they are going to be driving. And then many past years, if you look at some gas pump prices, they will peak out closer to Memorial Day to June rather than the 4th of July or Labor Day. And so they tend to peak out a little bit early, and that shows some of that seasonality also.
Now, I've been reading as well, Dan, that propane builds have been pretty noticeable, pretty strong in recent weeks.
Yep. I mean, actually, if you look back over at Harry and I looked at yesterday, if you just have average builds from this point to, I want to say, about the first week of October is when they usually quit building, about the first week of October. if you just have average builds between now and then, it would tell you we're going to peak out around 94 million, which is, I think that's the largest peak since 2016. So
right.
If these builds continue now, again, it's all based on history. You know, that's the only thing we have to look back at. And that's not even including any big weeks in there. That's just the averages. Yeah, I would tell you today, propane inventories, you kind of start to feel pretty good about them. Probably one of the wild cards is a little bit crude. Today, you know, Harry mentioned propane feels pretty good. You know, as far as the value of propane, it hasn't went up quite like the other refined products they have. And I'd agree with that. The percentage of propane to crude looks pretty good today.
It does.
Compared to what it has in previous years. So it definitely feels like now is kind of a little time to look out there and do some buying. The other little bit of a wild card on it is probably the exports. They are starting to come up some over the last few weeks. They are a little bit above last year, so where does that all go from here? You know, got to keep a pretty close eye. I think there's a pretty good discount to the overseas and propane.
There is.
Yeah.
And again, when Dan's talking about doing some buying here, again, we have to split the two markets. The liquid fuel market is the one that I'm saying is getting overbought and the seasonal peaks out. Dan's talking about the propane market, which is a little different. The propane market, like he said, is kind of diverged from the liquid fuel market. And it hasn't rallied a lot. That's why propane actually looks a little undervalued. You know, at the same time, diesel fuel and gasoline are starting to look a little overvalued. So,
you know, regular gas has gone up about 50 cents in a couple of months.
Oh, at least. And the futures market's gone up more than that. I
Diesel,
think.
Meanwhile, just hangs around, doesn't it?
Diesel fuel hasn't rallied quite as much. Some of the weekly demand numbers in gasoline here in the past couple of weeks have been very strong in gasoline. And now some of that would have been taken into account from the spring break season there of a couple, 3 weeks ago, and that could have accounted for some of it. But some of these gas demand numbers are just so high, you wonder how high they're going to get this summer then when we actually do get Mommy and Daddy and Billy and Bobby heading to the Grand Canyon, you know.
I waited 6 minutes for that. I was trying to...
You've got to squeeze that in every time.
Absolutely.
You got to get that in.
That's part of the deal. We already have a break coming up. When we come back, Harry and I saw each other a week ago, and one of the things I wanted to talk about, and that Harry had even mentioned, I believe, on Twitter, was just how much more production there's been for oil in Texas. Is that sort of thing sustainable, and where do we go from here? And we can ask similar questions about propane with Dan. So more to come here on a Thursday, RFD Today. Stay with us.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Dina Stroish connects rural routes for you. From the farm bill to crop insurance to GMO labeling, her expertise is apparent in the stories she reports. Here's a bit about her rural routes.
I get to meet interesting people and share their stories, and I get paid to do it. I cover ag policy and really enjoy keeping the farming community updated on these important issues.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Warmer weather means a longer honeydew list. Your county Farm Bureau can help you stay on top of your project list and save you money along the way. A Farm Bureau membership offer includes discounts on equipment and supplies from Grainger, plus free shipping on all standard Grainger products. Browse thousands of items from landscaping equipment to power tools. Anything you need to get the job done, Grainger has it. Not a Farm Bureau member? Call us at 309-557-2689. Or visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yawkey. A green screen, actually, for corn, wheat, and soybeans. Haven't seen this at all this week. May corn just fractionally higher, up a fraction, 347. July up a half, 356.5. December up 3/4, 376 3/4. May soybeans up 5 3/4. 861, July up 5 3/4, 874.5, November up a nickel, 894.5. We've been terribly oversold in these markets and continue to be. May wheat up 1.5, 433 3/4, July up 1 3/4, 440.25. Meanwhile, still lower for livestock. May hogs down $1.30. And June down the $3 limit, 89.77, about a $10 decline in just a couple of weeks in the June hog futures. June cattle down another $1.52, 116.82. All right, welcome back to RFD today on a Thursday. It is. Dan Panier's here, propane with Growmark. Harry Cooney, Growmark Energy Risk Management. Just a little bit ago mentioned, so all this extra production in the U.S. for crude is all coming from one state, it seems. Maybe not all, but the lion's share is coming from Texas. Is that sort of, what kind of sustainability do you think on something like that?
I'm glad you rephrased that, because yes, it's not all, but the big increase. In fact, we had a graphic that I sent out on Twitter here, a couple weeks ago, and it showed the major states of oil production in the U.S., and it helped show that, it surprised me, matter of fact, because I thought the Dakotas were where it was at, knowing that Texas is a big state, obviously, of oil production, but the big increases in the past several years have come from Texas. I mean, if you look at the graph, the South Dakota or North Dakota, the production there just pales from Texas. I mean, Texas was, I should have brought that. I didn't bring it with me, but it was something like 8,000 or 8 million. I forget what the number was. The graph was up to like 8, and I think the North Dakota graph was up to like 1.5 or something like that. I mean, it's just incredible to see the increases that have occurred in Texas compared to, well, all other states, really.
Seems like something that could peak for a while, but I don't know. They keep discovering more and more spots, it seems, so.
Yeah, I mean, over time, you'd always think of Texas as oil. I mean, really, I never thought of the Dakotas as oil until a few years ago when they started doing this, horizontal drilling and fracking and all this stuff. But I guess they have that technology down in Texas now, these new technologies, and so Texas is finding more than they ever had before, probably, down there.
Not to make light of it, but did you see Ken Kercheval passed away?
I did. We used to watch that show. Dan, I don't know if you watched years ago, but the show Dallas.
Ken Kercheval was Cliff Barnes on Dallas. He was JR's rival.
Okay. Yeah, he was always on. It was, and it's fitting because we're talking about energy prices. So Dallas was they were always on there, and J.R. Ewing and his buddy or his brother Bobby, and then this other guy, Ken. You say Ken was the guy?
He was Cliff Barnes.
Oh, Cliff. Yeah, that's
Barnes.
right. Cliff,
in fact, for a while they thought Cliff Barnes was the one who shot J.R.
Yeah,
it turned out
that was the big thing back there.
Yeah.
And when was it? The 70s or so? Who shot J.R.?
Early 80s.
Yeah,
early 80s. We're dating the audience here.
I can remember it, Harry. So it wasn't in the 70s.
Oh, okay. Well,
okay. Well, now similar question for you then, Dan, because when we talk about propane, we talk about Conway and we talk about 2 or 3 places.
Yep.
Kansas and Texas. So apparently that's sustainable because I assume that's been going on for quite some time.
I really think it is. I think actually overall, I think it's probably ticked up over the years, and I think it continues to produce well. So there's a couple things. Texas can get fed by the Conway market, so they do actually ship propane when the Conway-Bellevue spread is right, and it tells you to. They'll ship propane from Conway down to Bellevue. How does that propane get into Conway? Well, it either comes in via rail or there are some pipes that lead into there. Some of it comes out of the Balkan Shale up there in the Dakotas, and you would push some propane down there that way too. So the other big thing is the Marcellus Utica Shale. That continues to seem to grow fairly decently over the years. I mean, it started out that it was just kind of concentrated right there around Pittsburgh. It's Houston, PA. And then it grew out to Scioto, Ohio, and now it's into the West Virginia and places like that. So that seems like it continues to grow. One of the big things is probably maybe it's not talked about so much back here because it's not on the news every day, but is that Mariner 1 and the Mariner 2 East pipeline. That's a line that's going to go from that western Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio market, and it's going to go out to Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania, and gives them the ability to actually export propane off the East Coast then. That did start up, I want to say it was about a week or 10 days ago. Mariner 1 had been down for quite a while. That did come back online about a week or 10 days ago. So it'll be interesting. That's why I said earlier one of the wild cards in the market is the exports, and just to see what kind of effects the Mariner 2 and Mariner 1 line has on the export market overall. And they're definitely up this year. Part of it's probably attributed to the Mariner lines in Marcus Hook.
If average builds can take us to a really high place over time, is this the time to consider doing some propane contracting? You know,
we have already 3 recommendations out to our FS member cooperatives that they push on to their end users. So we've already been locking some in. In fact, the team here in the office has bought 3 times, 10% each time, and they've hit nearly the lows. We were just in a meeting yesterday looking at that. So they need to, so end users should start looking at what they want to lock in for fall and for winter needs. And don't forget the summer fill programs that their FS cooperatives will have throughout the summer here. That's usually some of the best fills because prices are depressed in the summertime. But we're also watching this corn planting progress or lack thereof. And it's still far too early to say that, you know, corn planting is getting delayed enough so because in a lot of areas, the northern and western areas, they've been able to run. But we're watching this. I mean, this past week, I think, 6% planted versus an average of 12. And when you look at some of the forecasts for the next week or so, they don't look real dry in places. So we're going to be watching those things, but it's a little premature to really cry foul there and say we're going to have a big grain drying season. But we're watching those things real closely. And
for gasoline, hopefully the peak is right around the corner then.
Yeah, that's right. The seasonal studies would suggest that sometime over the next month or month and a half here that the liquid fuel markets could peak out. They don't tend to drop a lot then when they peak out. They just tend to kind of set back a little bit and then just kind of chop around throughout the summer. So when I say peak out, they might just stop their advance, but they may not drop a lot.
Well, it goes back to what we've talked about, too. You know, price of gas has gone up 50-some, 60-some cents in 2 months, and my driving habits are, you know, have not changed whatsoever.
So at what price level, how much would it have to go up for you to change your driving habits?
That's a really good question, because with family involvements that I have, that comes first. And
why I ask that is because that's what the market always tries to do. You know, it tries to see where you're starting to snuff off demand. And the thing is, the stock market just hit new highs this week. Not by a lot, but it did hit new highs. People are feeling a little better about things probably. Unemployment overall is relatively low. And so that's what the demand side will be watching to see if there's any price level that starts lessening some of the demand. And my guess is most people will continue to drive just like what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, Harry Cooney and Dan Pannier, as times go awfully quickly, but we'll talk to them again next month. When we come back, well, if chicken's a two-legged soybean, then we may talk about swimming soybeans a little bit. Illinois Soybean Association, through their checkout program, making advancements in the tuna business. That's next on RFD Today. Let's check livestock markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Illinois direct hog market has held firm for the better part of the week after gaining $3 to $4 early in the week, $51 to $60 a hundredweight. Sow market on lightweights was another $2 to $4 higher, $48 to $54. Heavyweights, $53 to $60. Light boar still the top of $35. Meanwhile, the futures market has really dropped in the last couple of weeks. Wasn't that long ago. June was at $100 a hundredweight, $1 a pound. And at one point earlier this morning, the June contract was trading south of 90, so losing $10 in a short period of time. Cold storage report from USDA shows cold storage at 1.13 billion pounds of frozen meat in storage, which is still well less than a record. The Lost Yankee, RFD Radio Network.
How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning. And you know, that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org.
Joining us on the phone from the Illinois Soybean Association is Mark Albertson. Mark, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. So soybean folks and the checkoff program is in the tuna business, apparently. What's that all about?
Well, this is an initiative we started a few years ago, feeding soy to tuna. Over the years, we've been feeding soy to various types of fish, starting with tilapia and catfish, eventually working our way to cobia and sea bass and yellowtail and some of the more challenging species to feed soy to. Eventually, we've worked our way up to the apex predator tuna. They're at the top of the food chain.
Wow.
They're very finicky in what they eat, and we're very pleased that we've been able to develop diets for tuna.
By the way, Mark is Director of Strategic Market Development for ISA. I would have never guessed that tuna was on top of any food chain. How about that?
They definitely are. They are some of the fastest swimmers in the ocean. And because of that, they can eat just about whatever they want because they can catch it. And on top of that, the bluefin tuna that we see on the west coast of California, the west coast of Mexico, all of those tuna are born in the South Sea of Japan. And they swim all the way from Japan to the west coast in search of food. And it's amazing how big these fish will grow, how much they eat. And now, with the work of the soybean checkoff, they'll be eating some soy.
That's amazing. I remember talking about other projects, and usually they were in Mexico or they were even farther south than that. So there's significance, I assume, of being on the west coast here.
Yes, we're working with several species of tuna, mostly Pacific bluefin tuna, which happens to be one of the more endangered species. But Atlantic bluefin tuna is also very endangered, and we've done some work with Atlantic bluefin, and we've done some work with yellowfin. These are the most expensive tuna that you can buy. The folks in Japan love this for sushi. The kind of tuna you get in a can is more plentiful. That's the skipjack tuna or albacore tuna. But eventually, the feeds we're developing might be able to be used for all species. But certainly, we're starting with the higher value species.
Yeah, understandable. And if there's a hatchery to be built in San Diego, that sounds a lot easier than swimming through the entire Pacific Ocean just to get over here.
Yeah, and that's what we're really excited about. We just announced recently that we're involved with helping produce a hatchery in San Diego. This will be the first hatchery in the Western Hemisphere, and it's really the reason why we started developing the tuna feeds, because we knew that the tuna industry was on the verge of a revolution, just like the salmon industry was back in the 1960s, 1970s, and today we eat more farm salmon than wild-caught salmon, and in the future, we think that will be what happens with tuna. But all those farm salmon are going to need something to eat, and soy is one of the perfect ingredients to feed the tuna.
Will there eventually be science on, rations, anything like that, just how much soy a tuna would need in these cases?
Yes, we've been developing these formulas for a number of years now. We've done testing in Panama and Mexico and Spain with various sizes of tuna. And we've come up with a formula that we think is perfect. It's got mostly soy in it, but it's got a lot of other things too. And we want to make sure that the tuna maintain their omega-3 profile, because that's one reason why people eat the fish, is so that they can get all those healthy oils. And so we've been able to substitute sardines and anchovies and other things that are usually taken from the ocean to feed farm-raised fish. And we've put in soy and other ingredients that are more sustainable. So we don't have to take anything from the ocean, not even the tuna themselves. The fish will come from the hatchery, and we think this will be a revolution that will end up being very good for soybean farmers. We're talking about millions of bushels of demand for soybeans because of the work that the checkoff has done.
Wow. And, well, if it comes from wherever, just demand nationally is an issue. If it comes from Illinois, that's great. I'm just wondering, how do you get the soy from anywhere to San Diego? There's not exactly a direct route there, I don't think.
Well, the type of soy that we're producing is, it's not just your regular soybean meal. We're working with ADM right here in Decatur to produce a special type of soybean meal that's very low in carbohydrates and remove some of the other anti-nutritional factors that are fine for most animals, but for these tuna, they can't stand some of the enzymes and compounds that are found in soybean meal. So the tuna that we'll be feeding in San Diego actually will be using soy that comes from Decatur, Illinois.
That's fantastic. Who knew? Whatever it takes to move product, though, especially as something that can stay in the U.S. like that, and that sounds like a pretty good deal, and sounds like something that could last for quite some time as well.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm sure farmers out there and the general public, they'll be seeing news releases over the summer especially. That's when we expect to hatch the first batch of tuna in San Diego, and things will take off from there.
Wow. Yeah, if you need media to go to San Diego, give us a call. We'll try to work something into our schedules.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks so much. Very interesting, Mark. We'll have to follow this down the road.
Okay, appreciate it.
Mark Albertson, Director of Strategic Market Development for Illinois Soybean Association, teaming and collaborating with the Foundation for Food and Agriculture Research, the first tuna hatchery in North America and the third in the world being built in San Diego. I'm DeLoss Yankee saying watch your ends. We'll be back in studio again tomorrow.
More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.